Well, the feud kicked off in a huge way there on on May 1st, '86, in Providence, Rhode Island, on Saturday night's main event. It took place in front of over 10,000 fans, and the show earned a 9.3 rating, with millions of people watching the program from across the United States. Up to this point in your career, you had been all over the country. You'd worked in front of varying sized crowds, but this will be your first time in front of such a large television audience, and it's your
Right,
first appearance on NBC.
right.
For all intents and purposes, this is like the very first time that a mainstream audience is really introduced to your character. So I mean, to say that this is a big show would be a huge understatement. Were you aware how many millions of people are watching this?
Didn't have a clue.
Really?
Did not have a clue.
So there's no like directive from anybody like, "Hey, the world is watching. You better
No,
go out there and put on a show."
no, no.
Wow.
Anytime NBC was around, you had your gear on tight, man. You know, you were ready to go.
And I mean, I think a lot of fans might hear this and say like, "Well, you guys are on TV all the time." It's like not on this level. This
No,
is a
it's a
whole other animal.
different monkey we're playing with now, man. This one, man, has all the bells and whistles, and you're doing mainstream, not just wrestling fans.
And if your time on TV does not go well out there, not only there's a lot at stake, not just from the perspective of how you're viewed by the audience, but maybe more importantly, how you're viewed by the office, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. How you're viewed by Dick Ebersol.
That's the big one too.
Yeah, yeah. I had a interesting conversation with him before the show started. So,
They lay it on us.
well, I got there early and sat out in the parking lot and smoked me a doobie. And I went inside and I was just kind of, looking around, seeing all this shit, man. Because again, it was my first time to be on this NBC thing, and I could not believe the number of trucks they had there,
Mm.
full of cables and TV equipment and lighting and all this stuff, man. And they just kept bringing more and more in, man, and laying miles and miles of cable. And I was sitting there just chilling out, and Jesse Ventura, well, before Jesse came to me, this dude comes over to me and says, "Here's your script for tonight." And that pissed me off. I'd never been given a script, ever.
Hell no.
And I started thumbing through it, and they had me doing some corny shit, really hokey bullshit. I can't remember exactly what it was, but man, it was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not doing any of this crap. So I yelled at the guy and told him to come back. So when he came back, I said, "Hey, take this and give this to NBC and tell them to shove it up their ass. Any of this bullshit." And I fucking slung it at him. Well, he caught it and he turned and walked away. So an hour or so later is when Jesse comes to me. And I'm talking to Jesse and he's telling me about, yeah, man, the number of people that are going to be seeing you tonight, man, is going to blow your mind, yada, yada, yada. What do you think of the setup? This is first class. This is what the real deal is. And I'm like, yeah, man. I said, except for one thing. I said, they fucking brought me a script, man. I told them to shove that shit up their ass. He said, well, you don't have to follow that. That's just a guideline just to show you how much time you have. You do what you want to do as well. I told him what to do with it. Don't worry, man. He said, well, who did you tell? And I look around and I see this same guy talking to Vince. I said, that fucking joker talking to Vince. And about that time, they started walking towards us, Vince and Dick. I
Oh
didn't
no.
Dick. I just thought he was a runner.
Oh no.
And they come over, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I just got fired. I'm expecting Vince to say, you're fired. And he says, So I understand you've already met. And I'm like, yes, sir, we have. And I didn't want to apologize, but he cut me off. And he says, well, I understand you got everything lined up in your mind already, the way it should be, the best way it should be. And that's what we weren't. We weren't the very best. So just off the top of your head, what would you do in a pre-tape? And I paused for about 3 seconds and I said, how about I take a shower with a snake? And that's what they did.
Yes.
They showed me in the shower with the snake.
And that's the story behind the whole moment.
Yeah, the whole moment of, am I going to be fired or what? But that was the beginning of a long-term relationship with Dick Ebersol.
Now,
We became fairly tight.
did you really?
Yes, we did.
That just kind of goes to show it's like he's a guy who's used to people just kind of backing off and doing what he says, and you didn't. So he's like, all of a sudden, you're pretty interesting.
Yeah. I tweaked him a little bit.
And by the way, out of it came like one of your most iconic promos. We see that footage all the time of you in the shower with the snake, and just like what a cool moment. Did they pop right away when you told them the idea?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, it's great stuff. And just to kind of paint the picture for the audience, Vince, as we all know, is not a man who is willing to let go of control of anything. But when Dick Ebersol's around, he's providing Vince with this massive mainstream exposure through NBC. So, Vince would kind of acquiesce to Dick relatively often.
Absolutely, man.
But not the snake. He's not taking any shit off this guy.
Oh, I didn't fucking know any better, man.
Well, rumor has it, I know that you and Dick would become buddies, but rumor has it that he was the one who said that the WWF rings don't look good on TV because they have too much spring in them, which prompted Vince to then reinforce those rings and make them super stiff.
Make them super fucking stiff, man.
So, in theory, Dick Ebersol probably shortened a few careers.
Oh, yeah, he did. Oh, yeah, he did.
Would you say that once you got to it had already happened? The change it was done by the time you arrived in the WWF.
Yeah.
First time you take a bump in a WWF ring and you feel how stiff it is. What's your first thought?
Oh fuck! Here we go. Yeah. I mean, I've been in some stiff rings before, but the WWF rings were just fucking beyond stiff, man. They were just fucking solid. We used to joke that take a bump on the outside, the concrete's softer.
I mean, and then you see guys like, I think Brett and Owen and Mick Foley and Hunter all do this spot off the big blue cage with like the superplex. I'm like, are you out of your damn minds?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say it changed the way that you worked? Like, were you trying to bump less?
No.
No.
I did no.
Thinking back on it now as a wise older gentleman, would you tell a young Jake like, hey, maybe don't bump on your back quite so often?
Yeah, I'd have probably said a lot of things to a young Jake.
Would he have listened though, is the real question.
Oh man. Don't pick up the fucking shit.
Man, if only we could go back.
Yeah, man.
Did it seem like Vince was just letting Ebersol take the damn wheel on pretty much everything when these shows came around though?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Man, I guess you get those opportunities, you've got to take advantage.